Coming up in today's newscast, Israeli lawmakers vow to help non-Orthodox Jews in the wake of the Pittsburgh massacre. Knesset member urges American Jews to make Aliyah. And legendary music executive Seymour Stein discusses the music industry in Israel.
Following the Pittsburgh massacre that left 11 dead and 6 wounded, Israeli lawmakers from across the political spectrum have vowed to support both Reform and conservative Jews in their quest to gain equal status in the State of Israel.
Yesterday, 18 Knesset members joined forces in an emergency session called It's Time for Equality to urge the government to recognize non-Orthodox movements in Israel. The invitation to the event, which was signed by 6 Knesset members, stated that, quote, it's time for a pact of brotherhood rather than a pact of blood among all the communities of the Jewish people. Some of the attendees included Yesh Atid chairman Yair Lapid, Likud member Amir Ohana, and Meretz Party chairwoman Tamar Zandberg. Not surprisingly, there were no representatives from the Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox parties. Rachel Azaria of the Kulanu party said she was hopeful that the non-Orthodox movements would be recognized in Israel, but that we needed to be patient and allow it to happen on its own. She stated, quote, revolutions don't happen here in the Knesset, they happen first among the people. The executive director of the Reform movement in Israel, Rabbi Gilad Kariv, said he plans to draft new legislation to demand full equality and recognition. Lapid claimed that Jews cannot enjoy freedom of religion in Israel and, quote, so long as women cannot pray at the Western Wall and there's no change in the conversion law, we're doing an injustice to ourselves. Israel currently does not recognize marriages performed by Reform and conservative rabbis or conversions that take place under a non-Orthodox rabbi's supervision.
Yisrael Beitenu Knesset member Oded Foley spoke at a special meeting of the Knesset's Immigration, Absorption and Diaspora Affairs Committee and urged American Jews to make Aliyah following the October 27th Pittsburgh massacre. He stated that, quote, the murder in the synagogue in the U.S. must be a wake-up call for us, and said that if 100,000 American Jews made Aliyah every year, it would help Israel and would not impact the American Jewish community. The Anti-Defamation League presented a number of statistics discussing the rise of anti-Semitism in recent years. Meanwhile, Israel's U.S. Ambassador David Friedman sent the committee a letter stating that the Trump administration would cooperate with Israel on new plans to stop anti-Semitism. In related news, anti-Semitic violent acts have been on the rise in the U.S. Just yesterday, the New York Police Department launched an investigation into a group of teenagers who carried out a series of anti-Semitic hate crimes and attacks in Brooklyn. Some of their actions include throwing a metal pipe through the window of a synagogue in Williamsburg and displaying violent behavior to Hasidic children. The Hate Crimes Division of the Police Department is carrying out the investigation. A TV crew from Israel's Channel 2 went to the coastal enclave in Gaza to film violence from the other side of the border. They documented what really goes on behind the scenes.
Huge billboards with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas's face covered with blood, with the words, whoever punishes us doesn't represent us. Huge structures built by Hamas in the form of rockets that are aimed at Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Store owners in Gaza saying that although there are plenty of supplies, most people don't have the money to purchase anything other than basic goods, and there's a 53% unemployment rate. Many people have gone broke in Gaza, while others have been arrested and imprisoned for not returning debts to pay their bills. According to one Gazan, the Palestinian refugee organization UNRWA, which continues to receive millions of dollars in funding from countries worldwide, only gives flour to the Gazan residents. The Great March of Return rioters, which have been protesting since March 30th, are actually members of Hamas military wing Izz al-Din al-Qassem. This unit organizes violence and brings equipment to the security fence. Another Gazan told reporters that, quote, Hamas is the only group which profits from the violent demonstrations. The families of so-called martyrs who murder Jews receive $3,000 from Iran, while Hamas pays $100 a month to children who show up at the violent riots. However, despite all the criminal activity going on in Gaza, facilitated by Hamas, many people in Gaza still support Hamas and the war against Israel.
There are conflicting reports about the alleged ceasefire agreement between Egyptian President al-Sisi and Palestinian President Abbas. Some report that al-Sisi was able to convince Abbas to agree to the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, which would be a major accomplishment for Egyptian intelligence, while other sources insist that this was all a cover-up for what actually took place at the meeting, which is that Abbas and al-Sisi got into an argument when Abbas accused Egypt of betraying the Palestinians. So with us to discuss this is research associate at the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies and a lecturer at the Department of Arabic Studies at Bar-Ilan University, Dr. Mordechai Kdog. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure, Yael.
So what needs to happen to make a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas possible?
Well, in order to understand the problem, just imagine a lady who gave birth to a boy, and he's already grown up. He is 11 years old. He can run, he can eat, he can do whatever he likes, but she still refuses to cut the umbilical cord. This is exactly what happened. Hamas is already 11 years independent, can fight, and still the PA wants to be in charge of Gaza, although they are 11 years are not there anymore, have nothing to do there. They cannot do anything there because everybody hates them, and they are still insisting on being in charge of whatever happens in Gaza. And this is a source of problem, because whenever there is kind of rapprochement between Israel and Gaza, they interfere because they don't want this boy to be independent. They want everything to go through them. All the money through them means they can take, meanwhile, a coupon for the money. And this is the problem. What Israel has to do in order to come to any agreement with Gaza is to cut this umbilical cord between the PA in Ramallah and Gaza, and to recognize once and for all that this strip is already independent, and this is a state. They have a border, they have judicial system, they have ministries, they have armed forces, they have police, they have military industry. Means they are a state. Factually, they are a state. So leave all these slogans about unity and start looking at the reality.
But what exactly is Netanyahu's strategy? Because right now people are saying that there isn't a strategy. Is there a way to cut that umbilical cord?
Once he decides to recognize the division, which happened already 11 years ago because of feuds and struggles between both, this will be the key to continue with every side on his agenda, because the agenda for the PLO is totally different than the agenda of Hamas. It's a different mindset, different goals, different everything. Why the heck it is one unit, although they territorially, they are not united anymore. For 11 years, or never they were united. Always, they will need some kind of a passage between both of them. And this is why even people like Sisi, very, very powerful man who states with this and that, he does not succeed to get them together and to agree even on a ceasefire between themselves before Israel.
Well, Dr. Kdog, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. Thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure.
Amidst the deepening rift between Russia and Israel, Putin has canceled the November 11th meeting in Paris with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The ties between the two leaders have progressively gotten worse since September 17th, with the accidental downing of the Russian Il-20 plane by Syrian forces, which resulted in the deaths of 17 Russian crew members.
Russia has continued to falsely claim that the IDF was responsible for the incident, despite the facts shown by the Israeli Defense Forces that prove otherwise. Many Israeli authorities believe that the Russians used that incident as an excuse to arm Syria with the S-300 anti-aircraft missile system. This claim is supported by the fact that the Russian government attempted to deliver the same system to Syria back in April. At the time, Russia didn't follow through with the plan due to Israel's outcry over the matter. Many Israeli authorities believe that the Russians have their own agenda and are using this incident with the downed plane as a scapegoat to carry out the plans they initiated months ago in order to dominate Syria. The Russian-Israeli ties weren't always so grim, but have taken a turn for the worse. During the meeting with Trump and Putin at the Helsinki summit back in July, Trump stated that he, Putin, and Netanyahu were on the same page, and that Putin is a big fan of Israel and a strong supporter of Netanyahu. However, the Russian Foreign Ministry, Sergei Lavrov, has said that tensions are high between Israel and Russia. The Russian embassy in Israel retweeted Lavrov's statement, in which he said that Israeli military operations won't resolve Israeli security concerns, but rather rather will cause increased regional tensions. Late last month, Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman completely rejected the Russian demands that Israel must restrict airstrikes in Syria. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has stated on several occasions that Israel will do whatever is necessary to prevent Iran's entrenchment in Syria. Meanwhile, Israeli Minister Zev Elkin just stated that if Syria hits Israeli jets, Israel will strike back, and that it doesn't make any difference if they're run by Russian teams. He says that the S-300 systems have destabilized the region, and Russia made a huge mistake in shipping them to Syria.
An Israeli medical technology company called Alpha Tau Medical just developed a breakthrough radiation cancer treatment. ILTV's correspondent Doriel Mizrahi is here to tell us more about it.
Hey, El, thanks. So yeah, they're going to call this treatment the Alpha DART treatment. The technology delivers high-precision alpha radiation that is released when radioactive substances decay inside the tumor, killing only the cancer cells while keeping the surrounding healthy tissue intact, which to me is really amazing.
That's incredible. So has it already gone through the testing phase, and has it been approved?
For sure. As of now, they have tested over 6,600 animals in a number of studies that have found very effective and safe, and various indications, including tumors considered to be resistant to standard radiotherapy. Also, they have released early results from their ongoing preclinical trial at the Rabin Medical Center and a scientific institute in Italy, in which patients with squamous cell carcinoma tumors, which showed the tumor sizes reduced and more than 70% of the tumors completely disappeared within just a few weeks after treatment.
Wow, so this is really revolutionary. Can you explain how it works exactly?
So the treatment can be applied under local anesthesia in a short single session, and it also can be combined with other treatments such as chemotherapy and immunotherapy to increase its efficiency. And according to the company, it can even trigger anti-tumor immunity for elimination of distant metastasis.
So as I understand it, the medtech startup is heading for clinical trials.
Yes, and they're going to take this all the way to Italy, to the University of Rome, and the company said it will be collaborating with key cancer physicians worldwide to see if Alpha DART can also be used as treatment for additional cancers, such as pancreatic, breast, and prostate.
Wow, you know, it's really amazing to see that Israeli scientists are finally coming up with cancer treatments. I look forward to hearing more updates as they hopefully find ways to treat other types of cancers as well. Thank you so much, Doriel.
Thank you so much for having me, Al.
When one hears the words cherry tomatoes, sprawling Israeli farmlands usually come to mind. After all, Israeli researchers cultivated the cherry tomato in its modern form, which has become an international sensation. Before the 1980s, mini tomatoes, as they were called, were mainly used as edible decorations. Then Israel's agriculture experts started a global revolution when they turned this little fruit into what is now known as tasty and long-lasting cherry tomatoes. Several startups have been creating systems to use the nutritious fruit in interesting ways. For example, an Israeli company called Frutarom Industries uses tomato powder-derived ingredients to make natural vitamins and cosmetics. They studied clinical data which shows that tomato carotenoids protect against oxidative damage and sun exposure while reducing inflammation and DNA damage. Another Israeli company, Volcani Center, has done intensive research on tomato cultivation and has found a way to make them disease-resistant through bioinformation that they share with seed companies to produce tomatoes that are disease-resistant. The innovation doesn't stop there. After the seed companies receive this information, they turn the data into systems that identify the specific tomato genes that contain more fructose and glucose in order to create tastier fruits. With the latest advances in tomato technology, it's clear that Israel's famous shakshuka dish, the Mediterranean egg and tomato breakfast on most menus in Israel, will continue to be one of the country's most popular dishes for Israelis and tourists alike. Seymour Stein, the legendary music executive and co-founder of Sire Records, was the special guest speaker at Israel's International Music Conference and Showcase, Tune in Tel Aviv, last weekend. He spoke to a crowd of music executives and musicians, offering wisdom and insight into the pop music industry in Israel.
I think there's a great amount of talent here for pop music, mainstream music, that can reach anywhere. I mean, I've always believed this, but I think it was absolutely confirmed by the fact that Israel won the Eurovision contest.
Wonder Woman, don't you ever forget, you're divine and he's about to regret.
You can imagine how hard it is for Israel to win any international conference because, unfortunately, there's a lot of prejudice against Israel. They really won. I mean, and they won big.
In addition to being the president of Sire Records, Stein served as the vice president for Warner Brothers Records until his departure from the label in July of 2018. During his long and illustrious career, he helped shape the course of music history and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2005. He signed bands and artists who eventually became international sensations, including Madonna, the Talking Heads, the Pretenders, the Ramones, Depeche Mode, Erasure, and of course, Ofra Haza.
Her voice, I mean, she had everything else. The first international Israeli star for me, for Sire Records. I was so excited.
Stein believes that Israeli politicians should play a larger role in assisting the music business, saying that if they supported the industry, it would eventually reap tremendous rewards. He mentioned that the majority of the most influential songwriters of all time, including George Gershwin, Irving Berlin, Carole King, Richard Rodgers, and Oscar Hammerstein, were all Jewish.
I think that the Israeli government, they don't realize what a wealth pop music could bring to Israel. There's an industry that's waiting here to be built in Israel that can make a lot of money for Israel, and I think music can be a very, very important part of the whole entertainment industry in Israel.
Finally, as for BDS, which aims to harm the state of Israel by shaming international artists into canceling their performances in the Jewish state, Stein had some interesting advice as to how to combat the growing movement.
Come up with some hit songs, come up with some hit music, get behind, you know, and show the rest of the world what Israel has to offer. I mean, you won the Eurovision contest. That's so difficult, being from Israel. Didn't that open anybody's eyes or ears? Create a music industry here. That's the answer. For its size, the size of Israel, it can be monumental.
Starting at a young age, Eli Levinger expressed himself through vivid paintings and sculpture. This innovative artist and outside-the-box thinker has an upcoming exhibition right here in Israel. Fortunately, he's here today to tell us more about it. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if you could tell us about this exhibit coming up.
It's an exhibition. The exhibition is called Dreaming Cities. It's in Jerusalem Theater. It will be open in the between the 14th of December to the 14th of January, and it will be made of panda, because I wanted to make it's a very warm and strong color, and you can feel it like sculpture. I like very much to use my hands, and it's a very naive color, and with very warm and naive color, with lots of textures that I can bring into it in the color.
It's fascinating. What did you say the name of the color is?
The panda.
Panda.
Yes.
And what color is that similar to?
It's like oil. It's made of oil in the substance.
So it's a type of it's a
type of oil. Yes.
Okay, interesting.
And I use it on canvas because then I can take out layers and put layers, and the canvas don't tear when I use it on and off. It's an exhibition that I try to show in the exhibition many views of the city, bad and good, and many layers and different point of views of the city.
That's incredible. So I read that you started getting into painting and sculpture to express your feelings,
yes,
and as a way to put your emotions on,
yes,
the canvas. So can you talk about that?
Yes, as a small child, I had lots of procedures and many health issues, and one way of expressing expressing myself was with stories that I wrote and tell people, and also in painting and sculpture. I all the time had lots of imagination and the wish to make more and more things.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Yes, so I think there's a whole field called art therapy that,
Yes.
So it was actually therapeutic for you to express yourself.
Yes.
And as a result, we have these now beautiful paintings on display, and it's amazing. So when did you start painting? At what age?
I'm very young. I was at 10, 11, but and I went to School of Art in Jerusalem, and then later on to study how to work with children and other adults in different kind of scenarios, and work with them and teach them art and make that some kind of communication tool, so you can speak and work with them.
That's incredible. Well, Ellie, thank you so much, and
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing your exhibit. Sounds really amazing.
Thank you. I will be happy to see you all there.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
And now for the top 5 of the week with ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh.
Interestingly enough, more than half of the 2.9 million tourists that visited the Holy Land back in 2016 were Christian, which means it's time and long overdue that I give you guys ILTV's top 5 list of Christian sites to see in the Holy Land. First on the list is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, located in the Christian quarter of the Old City of Jerusalem. The church was built upon the site of Jesus' crucifixion, and the site contains the Calvary, where Jesus of Nazareth was crucified, and the tomb of Christ, where he was buried and resurrected. The energy in the church is undeniable and exciting even for non-believers. The Sea of Galilee is second on the list and is where some of Jesus' most well-known miracles took place, including when Jesus walked on water. There are many other holy sites to visit near, including the Kapaner National Park, sometimes called the Town of Jesus, the Church of Multiplication of Loaves and Fish, the Church of Peter's Primacy, Kersey National Park, and many, many more. So the Sea of Galilee is a must-see site, to say the least. Number 3 on the list is the Jordan River, or the Yardenit, is the famous site of Jesus' baptism. Today, visitors can take the opportunity to follow in Jesus' footsteps and also be baptized in the river. There's even a visitor center where travelers can shower, change, and get a white robe for their baptism. So, what are you waiting for? Fourth up is the 2,000-year-old city of Nazareth, with 30 churches and monasteries. This city is known to be Jesus' childhood home and where he was probably raised, considering the phrase Jesus of Nazareth appears many times in Christian scriptures. Those who visit the city can also see what's known to be the official symbol of Nazareth, Mary's well, which is where Mary was visited by Angel Gabriel to announce she would be giving birth to the Son of God. This city is definitely a highlight of Christian trips in Israel. Last but never least is an absolute must-to-see Bethlehem, which is the place of birth of Jesus. You can also find the Church of the Nativity there, which is one of the oldest surviving Christian churches. After you walk through the entrance to the church, which is known as the Door of Humility, and following the pathway, you will find yourself at the Grotto of the Nativity, which has been honored as the place where Christ was born. There are many, many, many more holy sites for Christians to visit here in Israel, but that'll be for another top 5. That's all for today's top 5. Back to you.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Although tomatoes didn't originate in Israel, the agricultural experts have transformed this wild fruit into a nutritious, flavorful, and long-lasting crop. So today's word of the day is agvania, meaning tomato. Israel is among the leading cultivators of tomatoes, or agvaniot, and surprisingly, the seeds of the tomato, or agvania, cost more per ounce than gold. Tomatoes, or agvaniot, can be a refreshing addition to your salad and come with an array of health benefits. So next time you want to eat something tasty while nutritious, grab an agvania. Let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight will be partly cloudy and mild with a low of 18 degrees Celsius or 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Tomorrow will be mainly cloudy with a high of 26 degrees Celsius or 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And over the weekend, you can expect partial thunderstorms during the afternoon with a high of 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees. Well, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.76 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. And don't forget to visit us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Yael Shir, and thanks for watching.